care if you're a man or a woman. I care if you buy men's or women's things. I care if you buy frequently or infrequently.
The welcome email, or just start building relationship?
The welcome email. I don't even have to think about it.
How about your favorite automation? Which one brings the most money to your customers?
Like, I'm actually adding a 10% off coupon to my welcome sign-up form because my sign-up form is only converting 0.1%, and I need to convert it like 10 times that. I would rather be converting a full percentage of my website visitors. But for my top percent of customers, if I tell them that they have to spend $100 to get free shipping, their average order value will actually go down, not up.
Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of the Marketer podcast. We have Jessica Best. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome. How is there in US? Because here it's 40 degrees Celsius.
It's really pretty warm here. Yeah, we're having a heat advisory. I'm in the very middle of the country in Kansas City, where the Super Bowl champ Chiefs played last year. So it is a wonderful place to live, but right now it is very hot. Today we're expecting 105 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not sure what the translation is.
I guess in the 40s Celsius.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I know when it gets above 100, it's really hot. So that's my benchmark.
Same to you. Stay inside, drink lots of water.
yeah. So all the recommendations. But here in air conditioning room, it's really nice. So
That's right.
let's enjoy.
That's right.
So you are the queen of email marketing, in my view. I saw you at a conference. You were amazing, and thanks for joining us here.
Thank you. I am definitely one of its biggest fans. I can say that for sure.
Yep. Yeah, I saw your energy on the stage, and I prepared a ton of questions for this.
Yeah, hit me. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, let's do this. What is? I'm gonna go deep from first minute. Why do we need first-party data? Is it important?
It is important, and it got more important a couple of years ago. Europe actually got here first. The US is finally starting to catch up. We've really got to start to set expectations and let users pick their own privacy level of comfort. So in order to do that, what we call first party data, or sometimes there's even kind of a funny phrase that Forrester came up with a couple of years ago called zero party data, which is data that the actual customer told you, and they're not surprised, or it's not creepy when you use it because they actually gave you that data. It's really just first party data. The importance is that we own it, and that we don't have to bring that in from a third party partner, because right now the walls between that and our sort of privacy expectations, they just feel a little fuzzy, right? In the EU under GDPR, we actually can't do a lot of third party targeting. In the US, we felt that when Facebook took away a lot of their third party targeting tools. So now it's best that we know our customers one-to-one. It's best that we know a personal relationship with the prospects and customers that we would target. It makes acquisition a lot harder, but it makes some of what we do in email marketing and CRM, mid-funnel and lower funnel, it actually makes it a lot easier.
Indeed. So mid and lower funnel, because we're not going to build awareness through email marketing. We need somehow to get that data, that subscription and the email address, or any kind of direct channel for that matter, right? Because it's not only email, it's push, it's SMS, it's different other channels.
You got it. And I would say that loyalty falls into that too. You think about either a surprise and delight program that's informal, or in e-commerce, I think a lot of what we see is a true rewards program. You know, you've spent over $100 with us, you're one of our best customers, you get a special offer as compared to maybe, you know, a first-time buyer.
And now that you brought loyalty to the topic, so basically how I see it, we bring them back with email and we convert them through using loyalty. One quick niche question: is a loyalty email saying, for example, 100 more points and get to gold level, a commercial email or a transactional email?
It's still that would be a marketing email. There's not a lot of precedent, even in the United States, where we love to set legal precedents. There's not a lot of precedent on somebody being prosecuted for using transactional emails for marketing. But what we've come up with in the industry as more of a self-regulation is that no more than maybe half of a receipt can be marketing. And in that case, you're not sending a net new receipt. It's not required sort of for your relationship for you to send that balance, that points balance. So I would consider that a marketing email. You should probably talk to a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, but that would be my interpretation, is that almost everything really falls under marketing, unless it is your account is going to be shut off. Here's a receipt for your most recent order. And I love putting marketing in those emails, which is why I say I've really learned to keep that down to half of the email.
Yeah. So you have a quantitative approach, half and half. Me, myself, we here have a rather different approach. That is, if it has the product and the price, then it falls under commercial communication. If it's just 100 points to get to gold level, then it's not commercial, although it might be marketing.
Yeah.
So different benchmarks. It's good to have different perspective for different laws and continents.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good rule, because you're basically saying, if I'm featuring a product and the price of the product, obviously it's commercial. My thing is, if the call to action is to buy something, then it's still commercial. It's still marketing.
Buy something, not specifically.
Right.
Just
correct. Buy anything at all. Spend money, if that's the call to action, as opposed to here's a transactional piece of information or an administrative piece of information. But like I said, it could be interpreted a lot of different ways. I appreciate your perspective on that as well.
You can even take away the buying. So, for example, give me a review to the product you just purchased and you get 100 points. So we can even take away the buying.
I think review emails are considered transactional mostly. I mean, you can put marketing in other parts of the email, but a review email, or I think a referral gets to be a little bit more marketing, but a review almost is finishing your transaction and helping other buyers like you. I could see that being considered more of a transactional email than commercial, because the call to action isn't to spend money.
Indeed. Let's have a quick chat about attribution. So how do you see attribution in GA4, of course, with this black box that is the data attribution?
Yeah. Okay. So attribution is one. Maybe I said this when I was at that conference. I feel like attribution is an email marketer's dream, because we always get credit. Email marketing attribution comes down to just putting something in the link that allows you to track it. And GA4 is similar to Universal Analytics in that as long as we're using those UTM strings, those really long, gross looking strings, all of that is absolutely where the email came from. I just have to put the right thing or the right nomenclature in those UTMs. And I kind of get to say that's definitely where they came from. The challenge is that is last click attribution, which is a little bit of a dated model, right? Because other things probably help that person buy. First of all, how did they get on your email list in the first place? So I think that multi-channel, giving credit to how that person came to that decision ultimately, that's probably a better and more robust way to count that revenue. But for email marketers, I joke that we're really lucky that we just get last click attribution, and we sometimes get credit for the whole group's team work.
Yeah, let's deep dive a little bit into this, because I see a big difference between categories. So, for example, a lady can buy a dress just on impulse. I mean, not a fast fashion dress, versus buying a home appliance, which takes a lot of back and forth. So then it gets quite diluted, because it's like 10 or 15 interactions, and us, we get 10% or 5%.
That's right. That's right. And honestly, that's fair. I mean, one of the clients that I had when I was at my previous agency was a Winnebago. It takes you 18 months and like 30 small decisions to buy a Winnebago, including test driving.
I'm not familiar with the brand that you said.
Oh, it's an RV. It's a motor vehicle where you drive around. You know, maybe this is a United States thing, but Winnebago is the brand of RV that is most popular in the United States.
Got it. Of course, and of course the buying cycle, the decision cycle is quite long, because the investment is quite heavy.
Well, and it's a $200 to $400,000. Yeah,
Whoa, okay, this is another level.
because it's a home on wheels, right? This is sometimes people live full time in their van or their RV because they've decided that they would rather travel, and that is wonderful, but it is a huge decision. So, yeah, we found that there were not only multiple channels, marketing channels,
Mhm.
but that the salesperson wants credit for that because they gave the person the test drive. They've been calling and checking in, all things that are actually really hard to track unless the salesperson is really good at writing all of those things down in a CRM, customer relationship management
Yeah,
system. So
indeed, and even still, it's hard to link the CRM information necessarily with the online behavior.
it
One
can
last
be that in that case, the sale is offline, which helps a little bit, right? If the salesperson ultimately makes the sale, we end up using the CRM as the true attribution center as opposed to using a marketing platform.
Yeah, I guess middle of the funnel is the most fuzzy because beginning of the top of the funnel, it's easier. Bottom of the funnel, easier, but middle of the funnel where you build trust, it's a harder to track.
It
Now,
is.
one last question on attribution, please. Have you seen any major differences between attribution provided by the email marketing platform versus GA4? Because sometimes email marketing platforms get really overexcited with how much revenue they brought.
That's a good way to say it. That's very kind. So email platforms for the most part, and I'm thinking of, for example, Klaviyo, which is one of my favorite e-commerce platforms in
Besides the marketer, you mean?
does what?
Besides the marketer, the podcast that we're hosting right
Oh,
now.
do you guys have your own
Yeah,
email?
that is the marketer. That is our proprietary tool. So this is why we invited you to share the knowledge.
That's excellent. I'm so sorry to mention a competitor, but I didn't know that.
That is
No, that's that. I think a lot of email platforms, because we have the ability, we're taking a look at. I dropped that person off at the website on Tuesday, and on Thursday they bought. So
Mhm.
a lot of email platforms will give almost a window of time that person came back and bought using that same email address. It's more of a CRM or a matchback attribution model.
Mhm.
That can show a lot more revenue than just looking at GA4, which is trying to do its best to give credit kind of across the channels that got somebody there. For example, yes, an email made somebody go to the website on Tuesday, but on Thursday, when they searched for it again, they just searched for your brand name, and that comes through as organic search.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
the organic search might get that last touch attribution, or they may get some portion of that attribution in GA4, but the number is going to be obviously a lot higher in your email platform. And that is before you count out GA in general. Google Analytics in general has, it's not even that you're sampling. Not everyone is prone to sampling or doesn't have to deal with sampling in GA4, but just permissions wise,
Mhm.
not every visitor to your website is counted in GA4's numbers, but every person that's in your database that made a purchase and used an email address with that purchase, 100% of those get tracked to that record. So you
Indeed.
kind of,
Indeed.
on one hand, a little bit more true look in the email platform because it's trying to do that match back. And on the other hand, it's probably a little bit inflated in the email platform because there are other channels that probably should share some of that attribution.
Indeed. Indeed. So let me ask you something because I'm really interested in this attribution. How do you deal with the fact that sometimes the newsletter is used by us, the email marketers, more for just setting the cookie, so we have the tracking, and actually the automation does the actual final conversion, and you need the cookie in order to have the tracking.
Well, and you need the newsletter in some cases. So you just said the middle of the funnel is kind of hard to justify sometimes.
Mhm.
Think about all the things that are, maybe it is a fast fashion decision, maybe it is a short decision, but they probably have some relationship with your brand because they could buy fast fashion a lot of places. So I
Mhm.
actually think that the newsletter, somebody who's on your newsletter list versus somebody who's not, and maybe just is getting
Mhm.
an offer or automation or something like that. We've done some tests where being subscribed to a newsletter lifts that person's ultimate cart value or ultimate lifetime value because they've got more loyalty, not loyalty like the program, but
Yeah,
they
like
actually, as a person, feel more loyal to you as a brand because that you give them style ideas or preparation ideas or home ideas, things like that.
indeed. And sometimes just the intensity of communication, because they are more exposed to your brand, also uplifts the customer lifetime value.
Yeah.
Now,
And you kind of have their attention. Like the inbox is so funny. It's a little like having a magazine on somebody's table. Nobody does magazines anymore, I guess. But the idea of a magazine was that it had a long shelf life, meaning you might put something in an ad, like an ad in a magazine, and a month later, somebody's sitting at a doctor's office and still
yeah.
sees that ad. It has a long shelf life. So in email, the way that we sort of get our long shelf life is we put newsletters out once a week or once a month.
Indeed.
It's
Indeed.
always there. So when you are ready, then we are still that partner. We are still in front of you in your inbox.
That is cool, because PPC or SEO just is flashing and going away. Email stays.
Very bottom of funnel, very like every search and then it's done, right? So that's catching what somebody's already searching for, and it's great. It works, right? Again, last click attribution is very kind to PPC and SEO. But what made them search for it? What made them search for your brand, right? So as you go back up the funnel, what made them decide they need a new dress? And it's,
Indeed.
you know what I mean? So I think you get, it's a lot harder to create demand at the bottom with an SEO or PPC strategy, but it's a fact. If you got it, you better be in front of them. And I think where email comes in the middle is they might have searched something because they were curious. We can help convert that person to an actual buyer or shopper.
Yeah, push it down the funnel.
Totally.
Big discussion we have with our customers is promotional newsletter versus any other type of newsletter, like just information sharing or how to. And contrary to my belief, sometimes how to or just branding newsletters do convert, and sometimes they convert better, which makes it makes me crazy. What's your experience? Do we need to give 40% off to sell, or we can just tell a story and still sell?
Well, that's the importance of a testing strategy, right? So that is the question that has haunted me for the last like 15 years. Can we get away with 10% off, or do we need to do 15? And in today's world, the difference between 10 and 15% off is not very big. It used to be that 10% off, if you gave a 1% off coupon, people would use it because it was the idea of a deal. And I think that the market has shifted and consumers' perceptions have shifted of offers. So like a 40% off offer, do I have to do 40 or can I do 15 or 20? So putting those things in a test and even testing them against no coupon. That's the big one that we've run, especially in e-commerce, is let's split the list and see, do we just need to say that this product is available, remind you that this is a cool product and why you should buy it? Or do we have to have an offer every time? And the only way to test that, or the only way to know that, is to test it because it's very different by audience. Some audiences are very price sensitive. Some products are very price sensitive because they're a little more commodity based. If you get to a relationship with a brand where you're, pretty committed to that brand for other reasons, like Tom's is an organic body products company in the US. I might be really loyal to Tom's because I know that they are sustainable and that there isn't anything bad in their products for me. They don't really give me a lot of coupons. But I may stay on their newsletter.
Poor kid in Africa, right? A pair of shoes. So that might help.
Right. And there's Tom's toothpaste and there's Tom's shoes. But yeah, that's exactly right. I have another good reason to buy. And that's when the newsletter side starts to convert, right? The brand, the parts of the newsletter that are editorial, like, how did that I didn't put anything in it that even said to buy.
Exactly. There was no button.
Something in front of people. So
indeed. And regarding now that is a big question regarding not going to spam. So help me with your best. First, my first question is actually, do you know or can you explain your view on how Gmail and Yahoo, which are mainly the most used email providers, think in deciding which one goes to spam and which one goes to inbox?
So the changes that happened this year, deliverability is so complex and complicated. Basically, before February of this year, there were two kinds of authentication that you already needed. You know this because you have an email platform, but that you have to you have to be who you say you are. So on the domain registrar where you buy your, betterav.com domain, you add a record that says, here are the IP addresses or the CNAMEs. Here are the list of people that are allowed to send from this domain. And if it's not on this list, probably not us.
Yeah.
The third kind of authentication is called DMARC. And it was more like if they aren't on this list, they are not us, penalize them and send them to spam. And before February, a lot of banks did this. A lot of people that have accounts, account information did this because phishing was so abundant that they wanted to really say, nope, we're 100% positive. This is the IP address that's us. This is the domain that we're sending from. And it was really secure. Not a lot of other brands did it. This year, Google and Yahoo said, no, actually, that's really secure. We really would rather know for sure if it's you or not you. So in February, they said, you've got to start using DMARC. The grace that they've given us is you just have to have a record at all. So this is a little technical, but meaning it doesn't have to penalize people that aren't really you yet. That's coming. But the first step was just go put the record on your domain. We aren't going to expect big things, but it will actually give us that starting step, getting marketers to start thinking more about authentication and keeping that up to date. The flip side of that is there was something called BIMI, B-I-M-I, that in Gmail inbox, I love it. You're like, yeah. We have DMARC as a requirement. BIMI becomes something that's available to most marketers.
Interesting. So that is the technical part of getting to inbox. How about the behavioral part? Is somebody clicking on your emails makes Google think for further emails that you are safer, you are more relevant?
Yeah. So engagement has always been part of the equation, but they won't tell us how much. Google says, I am using a lot of air quotes. This is a very obscure part of email marketing, but basically Google says that they don't use clicks to determine engagement. I think that's.
They must.
I don't know that
as well, and we know it's not true.
Partially because opens are no longer really a reliable metric, right? Like an open could happen because my iPhone opened it instead of the human. And so opens kind of became a little bit tougher to track. So now a high click-through rate is absolutely one of the ways Gmail knows that you're a viable marketer. Like people want what you send. And the flip side of that, I know I'm going to go a little over here because I'm getting excited again, but the flip side of that is negative metrics are actually even more important. If your hard bounce rate is over 1%, it's a pretty bad sign. If your unsubscribe rate is over 1%, it's a really bad sign. So those negative metrics are also a big part of determining whether you get to the inbox or the spam folder.
Okay, unsubscribe per sending or per month, per time?
Per send. So yeah, and you can average. The good thing is that it'll, let's say you've got an abandoned cart email that gets a 0.7% unsubscribe, which is a little high, but you also send a newsletter every week. The volume of the abandoned cart is going to be so low compared to your big batch sends that probably get a 0.3% unsubscribe rate, something like under 0.5%, that overall you probably won't be penalized, but the actual rate per send is what it's. So like maybe one of your newsletters gets 1% unsubscribe. You might have trouble the next day. It's very fast. So just keeping an eye on that is going to be one of your best tools of getting through to the inbox, because the answer is you might just need to wait a day and see if it resolves itself or see if you have to do something special.
So regarding these automations, so one of our challenges, and maybe you have a solution for that, is the following. People are coming to the website, but they are not cookied, so they haven't clicked on a newsletter or anything else in a reasonable time frame. And we have what we call unknown users. So we have no tracking in the URL. So even if he or she adds to basket, there is no way to send the automation.
Right. That is going to be the second most important job of any e-commerce marketer. I will sometimes fight for most important, but I usually lose. When somebody comes to your website, the number one thing, if you sell on your website and it's a fairly fast decision, the best thing you can do is convert somebody. The next best thing, you have no more important job as number 2 than capturing an email address. And I would say even more than cookies, because remember that first party, very transparent permission-based data is going to be priority going forward. So if you get somebody to your cart and they're unknown and we can't send them, you're going to lose them. So how much are you willing to give to capture their email address? So what I see a lot of times is, before you close this window, now I'm going to give you a 10% coupon, right? Even if I wasn't going to give you one before, but you have to sign up for our newsletter or you have to give us an email. So we get sort of stages of offers on an e-commerce site, because when you first get there, we love to just say, join our email program. But if you're actually going to leave the site without any record of who you are, I get a little bit more desperate and I say, what about a 15% coupon? Because that's going to be my most important save in a customer that otherwise may never come back.
Could you share some of your favorite segmentation techniques, like RFM or any kind of segmentation that you use, and what do you send? Because, for example, a lot of people talk about RFM like it's a really good way of segmenting, but not so many people really use it at their full potential.
Yeah, RFM is a hard one if you don't have all of your data ducks in a row. You really have to have good, clean, harmonized data between platforms. And that can be tough. I mean, I think if you have the right technology, everybody kind of comes in and everything is synced up probably by an email address or a phone number. For me, I love RFM because even if you think of it more informally, recency, frequency, and monetary value, you're basically clumping your top customers together. Who buys small carts, but most often, right? That's a segment. I love that segmentation because it's behavioral. Like sometimes we're like, well, we should talk to the men differently than we talk to the women. I don't care. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. I care if you buy men's or women's things. I care if you buy frequently or infrequently. So what I've done most often is there's a free shipping threshold, $100 order or more, for example. But for my top percent of customers, if I tell them that they have to spend $100 to get free shipping, their average order value will actually go down, not up, because their average order value is $130, for example.
Okay, in that sense, okay.
So I'm actually giving them a threshold that they're clearing anyway. So we just take that language out. Free shipping, no matter how much you order. And our best customers will take that as an opportunity to go nuts, right? Like they're like, oh, it's free shipping day, I should go. So I think using that to incentivize historical behavior to happen again, that's one of my favorite segment models. There's also the there's everybody, like, you buy some, but not a lot. You buy once a year, but you're pretty consistent. All of that is behavior that we can reactivate. But one of my other favorites is that triers, people who have bought one time and it's been 6 months or 12 months. We're either going to get that person back for a second time, or we're probably never going to see them again. That's one of our big, fallout, right? That's one of our big leaky bucket segments. So we'll go pretty aggressive to that group, but instead of it being a free shipping offer off of $70, they've only bought once. Maybe they only bought a $20 item. We're not going to give them a shipping threshold of $100. We're going to say, come back one more time and we'll give you a sampler pack for $25. We're trying to get them to try it a second time. So just changing the offer based on what that mentality is, how familiar that person is, or how excited that person is already to be buying from you.
Let's put all this work and thinking, because it sounds like a lot of work and thinking about it, in perspective of some kind of ROI calculation.
Yeah.
So you have on one hand the cost of the tool, you pay something to the tool, the cost of the services, of your services, right. And then you have, let's say, for simplicity, revenue, not profit, just revenue versus cost.
Right.
What would be a good ratio between these two?
So the numbers that I heard for years were like, it's a $40 return on investment. For every one cash dollar that you invest in email marketing, you get $40 back in revenue, not profit. I love that distinction. Yeah. And for years it was like $40, and then the next year it was 42, and then the next year it was 35, and then it was 28. And I was like, I'm going to do my own numbers. So I think my base expectation from, I've worked on Dairy Queen, which serves $2 ice cream cones. And I've worked on, we talked about Winnebago, which is a $200,000 vehicle. The ROIs are very different for those, but I think that a 20-to-1 is sort of my average between really small products that are very fast, but you buy them more than once, to really big products or even middle range products. I also worked on Spirit Airlines, which is a low cost airline in the US, and their flights are $100, $200, $300. So a good mid-sized product, but they were still getting about $20 back for every $1 that they spent in cash. So that's probably my go-to based on my own client data. I think that the numbers that are published out there are probably more scientific and based on, in the construction industry, it should probably be like 100-to-1. But I think in e-commerce, depending on your price tag, that 20-to-1 is probably a good marker. And if you don't see that, if you see a single campaign where the total revenue that it drove is not $20 or 20 times what the tools cost, and the hard cost of that is, then you may find that there's something that you could optimize. And maybe it's that you add segmentation. Only part of your list should be getting that offer. Only part of your list cares about a certain product. That almost always drives up ROI. And so does automation, frankly. If you send to somebody that was looking at this product and they just stopped in the middle of the funnel, sending them a reminder like an abandoned browse or abandoned cart, that's going to have a pretty high ROI. They were literally looking at that product.
Indeed. How about your favorite automation? Which one brings the most money to your customers?
The welcome email. I don't even have to think about it. If you're not doing a bounce back email when somebody first signs up, you are not taking advantage of the highest open rate and most likely engaged person in their entire journey with you. The first email is going to be the most likely time that they're going to engage with you, and you have to use it. You don't have to put an offer in it, although a lot of folks do, because that next step is to convert. But the biggest miss that I see marketers make is that they are not set up with a welcome email or welcome email series. And it is a major missed opportunity, because that is going to be the highest open rate you get of anything that you send. Consistently in Google Analytics, that's one of the highest performers I see.
Yeah. Totally makes sense. Thanks for sharing that. But follow-up question is, should we have a promo in the welcome email or just start building relationship?
Test it. I know that's an annoying answer, but test it, because not everybody needs one. I think more often I see the offer used to increase capture rate than conversion rate. If somebody signed up for your emails, they're probably interested. And so you may not need an offer to get them from the welcome email to conversion, but you may have needed the offer to get them on the list in the first place. Does that make sense? So like, I'm actually adding a 10% off coupon to my welcome sign-up form, because my sign-up form is only converting 0.1%, and I need to convert it like 10 times that. I would rather be converting a full percentage of my website visitors. And so I add the offer to the welcome email because I wasn't converting capture. I wasn't actually capturing a big enough percentage of the website visitors.
Yeah, keeping the promise from the incentive to capture the email in the welcome email to convert.
Exactly.
Jessica, a million questions still to ask, but time is running out. Thank you for joining us. Could you please tell our audience how to reach you? Maybe they need their services.
Yeah, you can always find me on LinkedIn. I am very active there, Jessica Best, and my company is called Better Av, a better avenue, I guess, to email marketing and email marketing strategy. So look me up on LinkedIn. I try to stay on top of my invites over there, and then reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. All the best to you in sunny USA.
Thank you so much for having me.
Cool. Bye.